Hello, baseball fans, collectors, and investors, and welcome back to Iconic Baseball. I am Iconic Al, and today's episode focuses on two players that cemented their legacy in Boston by breaking the curse of the Bambino. They are now royalty and have earned their spot on this list based on their postseason performance, as well as a body of work that speaks for itself, despite controversy along the way. I'm talking about none other than Manny Ramirez and Big Papi, David Ortiz.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and cracker jack. I don't care if I never get back. Let me root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
Manny and Papi, two of the most feared offensive players in the history of baseball. They come with their controversies. Manny having tested positive, I believe, twice for PEDs during his career, and Papi having suspicion, let's just say, about the use of PEDs around him. I try to avoid canceling guys that had ties to PEDs, but instead interpreting and contextualizing their numbers and their careers appropriately, trying to take everything into account. But let's start with Manny Ramirez as a player. This was an elite hitter, a patient hitter, a 312 career hitter that got on base at a 411 clip. I mean, that is trouble for a pitcher. A guy that gets on base 41% of the time he comes to bat. That's elite right there. 555 career home runs, 1,831 RBIs, and a perennial postseason contributor. Now, this guy hit 29 postseason home runs in his career, which is still number one all time. There's no disputing that Manny Ramirez was an elite offensive producer. Let's get into some of the Manny items here. This one I have a personal story about. This 1995 Bowman's Best autographed Manny Ramirez card. As I've referenced before, my brother and I were huge Pirates fans growing up, and we were regular attendees of Pirate games back in the late 90s. In the summer of 1999, the Indians came to town to play an interleague series against the Pirates, and their best player and cleanup hitter was Manny Ramirez. That summer, by mid-July, when the Indians came to town, Manny already had 98 RBIs. That's how great he was playing, and offensively how amazing he was. So the prospect of getting Manny to sign anything that we owned was very exciting to us. So we devised a plan where we would exit the stadium after the game was over, kill some time, and then start a slow walk around the outside of the stadium, ending up close to where the players come out of the building. We devised this plan because we saw how event staff at Three River Stadium at the time would enforce the zone where players would exit the building, often ignoring people that just happened to be casually walking around the inner part of the outside of the stadium, and focusing instead on the crowd of autograph seekers that had binders and baseballs and pens ready to go. So we thought, okay, let's try this plan. Killed some time, and then slowly walked around the stadium, hoping to catch a player coming out or waiting for a ride. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. We were rounding the outside of the stadium when, sure enough, Mr. Manny Ramirez was waiting for a ride. And I was able to pull out this card, a 1995 Bowman's Best. Beautiful shot of Manny Ramirez finishing a swing. Took out a Sharpie that had never been used. I gently approached Manny with my brother. We each had a card in our hand and said, Mr. Ramirez, would you mind signing our cards? And he looked over at us and he nodded. I'm not sure how much English he speaks or how much he spoke at that time, but he was more than happy to oblige an autograph for each of us. And then we thanked him profusely as we backed away and just let him alone because we were feeling very, very much on cloud nine at that point, having just got basically the best player maybe in baseball at that time to sign a card for us. That's my Manny Ramirez story. Now, the second part to that story, about a year ago, I thought to myself, well, how nice would it be to have this card slabbed by Beckett and authenticated and protected to retain value for the future. So I sent it away to Beckett, thinking, oh, great, I'll finally get this authenticated and be able to keep it in my collection protected. They came back likely not authentic, and Beckett didn't authenticate it, didn't slab it. So it just goes to show you out there, collectors, just because you got an item in person and you're 100% sure of its authenticity doesn't necessarily mean that an independent third-party authenticator will agree. Sometimes you have disagreement. Maybe it's not a typical Manny signature. I mean, he spent a long time standing there signing this autograph for me, and you could see he took care in signing that autograph. He put his number 24 down toward the bottom, and it's a really great signature and probably atypical of what you see from Ramirez from that time period. So at some point, I probably will send it away to PSA for another opinion. Maybe PSA will slab it for me. It's one of those things. It's an inexact science, forensic authentication. So it's not something that's ever really happened to me before. An autograph that I've received in person not passing forensic examination, but it does happen. So just a word to the wise and something to be careful for. Let's take a look at this 1992 Bowman Manny Ramirez rookie card. This one graded in a PSA 10. I think one of the better values in the junk wax market right now. Yes, it is junk wax era. Yes, it is highly produced. A lot of examples graded. There are 10,000 of these graded by PSA. Only 2,000 have achieved a 10. So we have a population on this card of about 2,000. A nice shot of Manny Ramirez in his street clothes, well before he went into Major League Baseball. A top prospect at that time. No stats to be seen here, just a little headshot. This card, one of 2,000 that are graded PSA 10, which sounds high, but that's relative. If you compare that to the modern basketball market, for example, a 2018 Panini Prism Luka Doncic base card has been graded 33,000 times by PSA. 18,000 of which are PSA 10s. So if you think 2,000 PSA 10s is a lot for a card like this, yes, there's plenty of supply out there. But there's 18,000 Luka base prisms. So it's all relative, again. That's the way I look at a card like that. And I think I paid $35 for this Manny. So I think it's a pretty good value. A beautiful Gem 10 rookie card of Manny Ramirez for $35. For me, that's pretty good value. I think Manny is always going to matter. He's got a shot at someday being in the Hall of Fame. It depends on which way the Hall of Fame voters lean. Toward Bonds, Clemens. If that's the case, then you have to look at A-Rod. You have to look at Manny because his career numbers speak for themselves. On to Big Papi, shown here in a Twins jersey. Not exactly what he's known for, but I do like how the card has a red background, almost foreshadowing his future glory with the Red Sox. What did David Ortiz do? Well, he hit .286 for a career with a .380 on base percentage. Pretty impressive. 541 career home runs, 1,768 RBIs. An excellent career. And unlike Manny, he never tested positive for PEDs, was never suspended for PED use. All we have is suspicion, which I think gives him a much better shot at getting elected to the Hall of Fame sooner. Although I do believe they are both deserving of Hall of Fame election, both Manny and Papi. They both had their shortcomings, namely their inability to contribute on the defensive side of the ball really at all. Manny Ramirez was a very subpar outfielder for most of his career, and David Ortiz was a DH for the vast majority of his career. So really, neither of them were able to contribute much of anything to the defensive side of the game. Really, all we have is monster offensive production in the regular season, and especially when it counted in the postseason. David Ortiz hit .688 in the 2013 World Series. I mean, .688, which got him the MVP, of course. But this is a guy that raised his game when he needed to, hit the big home run when he needed to, when the team needed him to do that. So you have iconic moments with David Ortiz that I can see in my mind every time I think of David Ortiz. It's hitting that big home run in the postseason to propel the Red Sox either into the World Series or through the World Series. He just did it over and over again. He's basically Boston's Mr. October. If you think Reggie Jackson for the Yankees, who is it for Boston? It's David Ortiz. It's Big Papi. He's the guy that got them over the top in a lot of those series. So that matters. What card do we have here? The 98 Donruss signature red autograph of David Ortiz with a beautiful autograph on there. Not a rookie card, but a second year card, which I think represents some value. The 97 Donruss signature, the rookie card version, it's a pretty pricey card. And for me, I kind of like the straight on portrait shot here with a nice autograph. The red card, for me, makes a difference. I like to see that red with David Ortiz because he ended up with the Red Sox. And you can get a card like this for close to $100, which I think is pretty good value when you compare it to 1 year prior, the big money that his 97 cards go for. So for my budget and my value-minded collecting style, for me, the 98 was preferable to the 97. The fact is, David Ortiz hit more home runs than any other DH. That's it, period, in the history of baseball. And the other fact is, no one in baseball history has hit more postseason home runs than Manny Ramirez. 29 postseason home runs. Both of these players are undeniably iconic and deserve to be on this list despite the controversy, despite the things you can ding them for, like defense, being a DH, things like that. I think this is the last duo that I'm going to combine on one spot on the top 100, and it pains me to do it, but I feel like, to be fair to everyone else on this list going forward, Manny and Papi, number 96. Give me your thoughts. I want you to comment on this. Let me know, do you agree with me combining Manny and Papi at number 96? Do you think that's too harsh? What items do you have for Manny and Papi that you enjoy? And make sure you subscribe and like and follow my videos to be notified when I come out with future installments on this countdown. Until then, keep collecting and stay iconic.